Here I'll be changing the transmission fluid in the Chevy Impala. This procedure should be the same in all GM vehicles with a 4T65E transmission. GM recommends replacing the transmission fluid every 100,000 miles for normal service, or if you're following their severe maintenance schedule, every 50,000 miles. The tools and supplies you'll need to get started are a ratchet and torque wrench with a 10mm socket. You'll also need a flat blade screwdriver, a hammer, and some pliers to replace the O-ring that your transmission filter should come with. I'll include a link in the description below for this transmission filter that I used. In addition to the O-ring, it does come with a replacement gasket, but I would suggest reusing your original gasket if it's still in good condition. You'll also need 7.4 quarts of Dexron 6 automatic transmission fluid. Today I'm also going to be adding half a quart of Lucas transmission fix to repair an occasional slip this transmission had on takeoff. It's also a good idea to have a roll of paper towels handy, a long-necked funnel, an oil catch pan, 2 jack stands, and a floor jack. Let's get started by setting the emergency brake, lifting the front end of the vehicle, and supporting it with jack stands. Next, slide the oil catch pan underneath the transmission pan and start removing the 10mm bolts around the perimeter of the transmission pan. It's best to go ahead and break all of the bolts loose and then begin removing the bolts on the narrow side of the transmission pan. Once you remove about 5 or 6 bolts, you'll see the transmission fluid starting to seep through. Then loosen a few more bolts and allow the rest of the transmission fluid to flow out. By only removing bolts on the narrow side, it'll help direct the flow better into your oil catch pan. After the flow of transmission fluid subsides, you can go ahead and remove the remaining bolts. Set the transmission pan and gasket out of the way, then gently pry out the old filter. If your kit came with a replacement O-ring, you need to take out the old O-ring first. I was able to do this with a flat blade screwdriver, a hammer, and some pliers, but be careful not to damage the metal on the transmission itself. Then reinstall the new O-ring by gently tapping it in with a hammer. Take the new transmission filter and press it into place. It may take a little force and wiggling, but once it's all the way in, it should line up approximately with this bolt on the bottom. Now it's time to pour the remaining fluid out of the transmission pan and get all of that cleaned up. You'll probably find a little bit of sludge on the magnet. Just wipe that off and set it to the side. I found it helpful to use a little bit of degreaser to clean the rest of the transmission pan. Also, I will be reusing my original gasket, so I had to clean that up as well. After everything's clean, place the magnet and gasket back in place and clean the bottom of the transmission. Reinstall the transmission pan, then put a few bolts in finger tight to hold it in place while you reinstall the rest of the 20 bolts. To speed things up a little bit, I use my cordless ratchet to snug up each of the bolts. Be careful at this stage not to over tighten the bolts. Next, use a torque wrench set to 10 foot-pounds to torque up each of the bolts in a cross-type pattern. Because there's so many of them, it wouldn't hurt to go around and verify that each one is tightened to the appropriate torque. That's it for underneath the car, so remove the jack stands and lower it back to the ground. To refill, remove the transmission fluid dipstick and insert the funnel. I started by pouring the Lucas transmission fix in first, followed by the AC Delco Dexron 6 for a total fluid volume of 7.4 quarts. Now reinstall the transmission fluid dipstick, start the car, and with your foot on the brake, cycle through all of the gears 2 times. Wait until the engine has reached operating temperature before checking the transmission fluid level. You want the car on level ground, engine idling, and transmission in park. The level of the fluid should be right here in between these 2 marks. If you found this video helpful, please click on that like button. Also, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. And as always, leave any questions or comments you have in the comment section below.